What's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Sports Talk Eli podcast. Great to have you guys with me for another episode of Sports Talk Eli. On today's episode, we're going to talk about Melo. The Melo man retired this morning. We're going to talk about Jalen Green's comments on the Paul George podcast. We're going to talk about how my feelings on the New York Jets with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback now. We're going to talk about the Spurs being able to potentially draft him beyond, and then we're going to talk about some playoff stuff. So, if you're watching this on YouTube or you're streaming this on the many podcast apps that I plan on throwing this on, thank you very much. We'll start off today's show with this. This morning, NBA All-Star Carmelo Anthony announced that he's retiring from the NBA. And just wow. Melo, to me, whenever I think about Carmelo, I just think about the fact that he's possibly one of the greatest offensive threats in the NBA. I think now people say that, Nikola Jokic is probably one of the greatest offensive players. Melo is definitely up there. When I think about Melo, I think about that triple threat jab step move he would get at the wing. And, for a short time, nobody could guard that. Nobody can legitimately guard that. Melo is possibly one of the greatest scorers of all time. Started his career off in Denver Nuggets, and he actually turned them around after a couple really bad seasons. You know, the Nuggets team with George Karl, Chauncey Billups, J.R. Smith, Kenyon Martin, Nene. They went to a Western Conference Finals in 2008 or 2009. One of those years. They definitely been to a conference finals, and that was a really, really fun team. Then he gets traded to New York, and as someone who lives in Brooklyn, New York, I've watched Melo. I watched Melo throughout his whole entire tenure in New York. And remember the first in high school, how excited me and my friends were to watch him get traded and just see him don the blue and orange. You had that team with Amari Stoudemire, and just it was a really fun time when Melo first came. They made the playoffs, but then the 54-win season, you had Mike Woodson as the head coach. You have a whole bunch of veterans on the team like Jason Kidd and Rasheed Wallace. You had an older Kenyon Martin. You had Tyson Chandler, and Melo had probably one of his best seasons. The Knicks had probably one of their best seasons. Well, this previous season is up there, but that 2012-2013 54-win season was really, really, really good. And Melo definitely had a case that year for MVP. He played really good. He led the league in scoring that year. They obviously got bounced in the second round against the Indiana Pacers, but what a strong year for the Knicks that year. And Melo was a big reason why. Whenever we think about Melo, we are going to think about the fact that the kid can get buckets. And the NBA is going to be weird without seeing him. Thank you, Melo, for the amazing years. I'm interested to see what you got next, my brother. Hopefully the New York Knicks hang up that number 7 in the Garden, and maybe the Nuggets might hang up number 15. They might do a dual thing where they hang up Jokic, they hang up Melos, and they hang out Jokic. I think they both deserve to get their jerseys retired, because they both actually meant something for that Nuggets franchise. Speaking on the Denver Nuggets, along with the Miami Heat, are just one game away from the NBA Finals. Now, there's a lot going on in Twitter and NBA Twitter, the internet, that the NBA needs to step in and rig these two series so we can get Lakers and Celtics. There's been complaining about the fact that the ratings are gonna suffer if we don't get the Nuggets. If we get the Nuggets and Heat, I should say, and the final. Listen, I am a proponent for good basketball and good storylines. Earlier in the playoffs, I was excited to see the Sacramento Kings make the playoffs for the first time in how long, because I love the story. I was excited to see the Bucks knock out the Heat in the first round because I love the story. There's an amazing story to be told with the Miami Heat, which is still a high market, one of the premier markets in the NBA. Let's not get into it. It doesn't have the lineage of the Lakers and Celtics, but the Heat has been pretty successful over the last 2 decades, okay? Let's not treat this like it's the Milwaukee Bucks or somewhere in the middle of nowhere, okay? It's the Miami Heat. You have to stop. But there's a story to be told with this underdog Heat team and watching one of a guy who might go down as an all-time center, cement his legacy, and win his first NBA championship. Like, I'm a real basketball fan. I'm going to be tuned into that series. I'm definitely going to be tuned in to every game in that series. If, it's a big if, we get a Miami Heat and Denver Nuggets series in the playoffs. Now for the Lakers and Celtics, I hope they can show some fight. I hope this isn't sweeps on both sides. I expect the Lakers to bounce back for Game 4, and still win at home. They're at home, and a lot of things. And then a lot of people have been saying a lot of things about LeBron, and the word "old" has come up. So, LeBron listens. That boy be listening. So I expect him to have a bounce back performance. I expect the Celtics to play better. They're on the road, so it might be a little bit hard, but I expect them to at least win their next game and then try to figure something out for Game 5. Last night the Heat just rolled over them. Gabe Vincent had a really strong performance. Kyle Lowry's played really good off the bench. Jimmy hasn't really turned up that last game, but he's looked really good this playoff series. But I expect the Celtics and the Lakers to at least win their next games. Moving on to our next segment, Jalen Green hopped on your boy Paul George's podcast, and he had some very interesting things to say about potentially James Harden joining the Houston Rockets. And I quote, "When Paul George goes, by the way, I'm going to read this off my phone if this thing can work. Okay, here we go. I feel at this point, you're the king of Houston," and this is what Paul George says to Green. You bring on someone like James, who's such a ball-dominant player, that's going to hinder your growth a little bit, which he brings up a good point. Regardless of how it can elevate you on another level, I feel like you've already been through the fire. And Jalen Green responds with this: "I agree that I think it can play both ways, like you said. It can help and hurt at the same time." Green responded, indicated that he hasn't spoken too much with Harden amid the rumors surrounding the 33-year-old future. I'm kind of torn on the idea of James Harden coming to Houston. I'm gonna do a mock draft episode of SportsTalkEli someday down the line. This after the finals, of course. But the idea of your boy James Harden joining the Houston Rockets, it's a move that I think the Rockets should make, because you want to properly develop these guys. You want to help Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr., Jabari get to that next level. And James Harden's going to help them. He's going to make them way more efficient players. Personally think that having some veterans around that Rockets team could be really beneficial. I'm not sure how beneficial having James Harden. James Harden doesn't come across as a player you look at as a vet. I still look at him as still a dynamic scorer. He isn't the same dynamic scorer during his earlier tenure in Houston, but he's still a really good player. I think he could be a good OG for this Rockets team. At the same time, he could possibly be a distraction. I don't know how well he's gonna clash with him, and I don't know how well him and Amy Udoka's gonna clash. I personally don't think bringing him back would be good for the rebuild. But, at the same time, if you're the Rockets, if you want to sell some tickets, then by all means, you bring Harden back. The Rockets rebuild actually is really interesting to me. It's one of my, I don't want to say one of my favorites, because the Spurs might be one of my favorite rebuilds in the NBA right now, but they definitely have a lot of young talent. They just need to bring in some veterans and some OGs. And I think Ime Udoka is going to whip them boys into shape. I'm not sure how many games they're gonna win next year, but we're definitely gonna see some progress on that team next year. I can expect Jabari. I'm not gonna say Jabari Park. Oh my God. I expect Jalen Green to take a next level, and I expect guys like Alfred Sengun to also play better as well. All right, so we're gonna take a break. When we get back on SportsTalkEli, we're gonna talk some WNBA, and we're gonna talk some San Antonio. We're going to talk some Wimbiana and the San Antonio Spurs. And we're going to talk some New York Jets. So keep it locked. It's the SportsTalkEli podcast, baby. hit the lottery. This time, they won big. By God, they won big again for the third time. They hit the lottery. They get the #1 overall draft pick and a chance to take the center out of France, Victor Wembanyama. And like, I was watching the draft lottery and I'm saying to myself, it'll be crazy if the Spurs win it. And they do it again. And it's ironic because, once again, it's another generational big man. Like, Spurs being bad the same year as generational big men entered the draft is just ridiculous. But the Spurs is probably the most ideal landing spot if they take him. Because if they be like, oh, no, we're high on Scoot Henderson, we're going to take him. Like, which is a small chance. I wouldn't rule it out, but at the same time, you never know what happened. But the Spurs taking Victor Wembanyama would be probably the best move. And I think San Antonio's a really good fit for him. It's still, even though they won 19 games, it's still some sort of winning culture there. He has some really exciting young players along with Wemby. You're gonna have Jeremy Sohan. You'll have Kendall Johnson and Devin Vassell and Trey Jones. I think they are a solid young core. There was times throughout the season where they showed like some flashes of being really good. And Pop is still there. Duncan, the Spurs, there's reports that came out that Tim Duncan and Tony Parker are gonna be like mentors to him. I think he ended up in a really good situation. He's gonna be around that structure and culture, and he's gonna develop a winning mentality from Duncan and Parker and Pop. It's a win-win situation on both sides. I'm excited to see how Wembanyama's games improve if the Spurs drafted, and I'm excited to see how long is Pop going to be coaching too. That's another thing we need to keep in mind. Pop is not he's not the same. And we're back. This weekend was a pretty exciting weekend to move along with the NBA playoffs. We had the return of the WNBA season, and wow, we've definitely had some bangers. We had Breanna Stewart going for 4 to 5 points at our home Liberty debut, which that Liberty team, by the way, they have the pieces to be really good. I personally still think they need time to gel, but that's a really good team when you bring Breanna Stewart and Sabrina and Jonquan Jones and Letney, and Destiny Letney. I can never say her name correctly, but that's still a really good team. And I was over at the Western Conference. You had the return of Brittany Griner for the Phoenix Mercury, which I can tell was really, really an impactful night. Really great to see her back on the court. She drops 18 points for the Sparks in the debut. Then she follows that up with dropping 27 and 10 against the Sky. This girl is, she's just a monster. And like I said, it's really great to see her back on the court. Now, I feel the Mercury is the one team in the West that can push the Aces, the Las Vegas Aces. I think the Aces are the favorite to come out the Western Conference, but the Mercury had the pieces and the star power to push them with Taurasi and BG. Aaliyah Boston looked really good in her Fever debut. I think she's proven to be the player that we all think she can be. They're going to still need time to gel, and they're going to need more pieces around her, but she has looked really phenomenal, and I am really high on her. I think she's going to be a really great player when it's all said and done. That South Carolina team was just a really awesome team. Just, my God, that was a really good team. So, just wanted to do a quick thing on the WNBA. I personally really enjoy the WNBA. As the season go on, we'll talk more about them girls, because a lot of them girls are really cold. Like, really, really cold. So, yeah, just something I wanted to talk about. Pivoting over to the NFL, though. Your boy Aaron Rodgers is a New York Jet. And the Jets finally found a guy at quarterback. Now, it's an older Aaron Rodgers. It's not the same Aaron Rodgers from 2009, 2010, or just from a couple years ago when he won an MVP, but they're still getting a really efficient, really good quarterback who can throw that thing. And the Jets have some pieces on offense. You think of Garrett Temple. You think of that really good offensive line. They went out and sign some guys like Randall Cobb and Lazard that Rodgers played with and he's familiar with. That offensive line is still really, really good. I expect that defense to still be really good. They were a really good defense last year. I expect the Dominics to be really good. Just their schedule. Their schedule is really tough when you consider the fact that every team in the AFC East have gotten better in some way. The Dolphins definitely made some moves to improve, and they're going to get a healthy Tua. The Buffalo Bills are still a really good team, and just getting Von Miller back is something that I can see would be very crucial for them. The Patriots are the Patriots. Without Tom Brady, that's still a very, very good team to beat. So I'm interested to see how their season unfold. I think the Jets are going to be really good this year, and I think that they can easily finish the season with a record of 10-7. And I think Rodgers is gonna lead them back to the playoffs. I mentioned that their schedule. They play the Chiefs at some point this year, and they have some other really difficult games. They have the Cowboys. They have the Giants. Just God, the schedule makers. I saw Aaron Rodgers and was like, no, we're gonna get some bangers out of this one. And they're also playing primetime games this year. They're playing several primetime games. They're playing on Sunday night this year. They're playing on Monday. Well, they've always played on Monday Night Football, but they're playing on Sunday night, and that's because of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, he's gonna turn his team around. Like I said, they're gonna finish the season 10-7. Do I think that they are a Super Bowl contender because of Aaron Rodgers? We'll still have to find out. I remember last year, a lot of people were saying Denver can be really good, and that wasn't the case. So I'm gonna be skeptical. 10-7 season, but it's not like concrete 10-7. Like if I was betting Vegas, I wouldn't have my hopes up high. But what do you guys think? How do you guys think the Jets will finish this season? I'm interested in see. And I think that'll do it for this is SportsTalkEli.